We recently talked about the rabbit hole, or getting into the weeds, and this happens most often when you have a bias that you don't even recognize. So you get way too far ahead of yourself and into your intervention plan, and next thing you know, you're stuck, and the patient isn't actually progressing anymore. Welcome back, people, to Nexus. Today, we are introducing the RAMS model. Now, this was originally created and coined, I believe, by Rusty Smith over at Lynchburg College, the DPT program, and I love it. It has all the things you want out of a framework: simplistic concept, tons of depth to move around with, and a catchy name that is very easy to remember. I use this in two different scenarios. When I myself am too far in the weeds and need to get back on track, or when I have a resident and I'm trying to get them to conceptualize and frame the patient for me in a mentoring session. It's very easy when you get lost in the weeds that you're going to have analysis paralysis as you're trying to grasp and connect all the variables you thought you had solidly put together in regards to your patient. And when you realize that you've actually got a leaky bucket in terms of how you're framing your patient, it's very easy for you to all of a sudden have a plummeting confidence level. In these scenarios, you need a lifeboat to grab onto and hold, and I use the RAMS model as that lifeboat for my residents. The RAMS model stands for retrain, attain, maintain, and sustain. And it really is a functional framework to think about your patients. You always start with the attain piece. Let's use an example of a patient who has an anterior pelvic tilt, and for whatever reason, you want that patient in a more neutral position. You feel it will alleviate whatever stresses are going on in that body, so that's your goal. The first question is, can they attain the position you are wanting? Now, this means that they can independently get into that position. If they can't do it, well, then you take a step back and you go to retrain that position. Retraining in this sense could be a number of things. It could be they don't have the range. It could be they don't have the coordination. This is what I meant by this framework is super simple, but it allows for a lot of depth to move around in. Once the person can attain the position you want, then the question is, can they maintain it? This could be, for our individual, staying upright in a standing posture, for instance. It's up to me to determine what my milestone or goal is for maintaining that posture, whether it's time, against weight or forces, etc. The maintaining in my head is a non-functional scenario. It's an artificial exercise, usually that I'm using for maintain step, but it doesn't have to be. Finally, the question is, can they sustain that posture? This is the idea that you can keep the pelvis in the same spot while lifting, walking, anything really. I like to think of this now as more of that functional component of rehab. So that's the RAMS model. You aren't going to get rid of your bias, or at least you won't for a very long time, but you hopefully now have an emergency cord you can rip and get back to a better spot. The model works nicely anywhere in the body, and no matter what school of thought you come from, which at some point in time we're going to tackle schools of thoughts on this channel, the RAMS model will still work for you. So make sure to thank Rusty Smith for that one. And once again, if you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button and notification button, and I'm excited that you've joined the community.